Indigenous America for Spanish Teachers by Ann Fountain. What this presentation will cover. Teachers of Spanish offer a wide variety of courses. These include K-5 and middle school classes, beginning and intermediate sequences, and advanced placement in high schools, and advanced level offerings in colleges and universities. Typical college-university programs in Spanish have Spanish American culture and civilization courses, options in Latin American studies, often with a focus on Brazil, and connections to Chicano studies. This talk will be relevant for many of those courses, but first, I acknowledge the support of the American Association of Teachers of Spanish and Portuguese, AATSP. About my background. For most of my professional life, I have studied and published about José Martí and about Cuba and contemporary Cuban authors. I've translated stories by Ida Barr, Marilyn Bobes, and Senel Paz, and hosted Cuban writers Nancy Alonso and Nancy Morejon in my home in San Jose, California. With my interest in Cuba, a signal honor was meeting Compay Segundo of the Buena Vista Social Club in the year 2000. You may ask why I am now discussing the importance of Indigenous America and Indigenous Americans for Spanish teachers. The next slides will explain. Beginning in 1989, I offered language immersion workshops for North Carolina Spanish teachers. And once those workshops were established, several participants suggested that the programs would be even better in Mexico. That is when I explored the possibility of seminars for teachers in Yucatan. And we began in 1992, lodging in a lovely big house in Mérida's Colonia, Mexico. My colleague and co-leader in the Yucatan travel programs, an extraordinary anthropologist, Dr. Laura Vick, was key to our success. Together, Dr. Vick and I led programs every summer for 10 years, minimizing the costs for teachers and students by doing the organizing and travel arrangements ourselves. After the initial trips, we did not need to advertise. I still hear from some of the teachers who went to Yucatan and recently had an email exchange with a teacher who went with us more than once. In the Yucatan programs, we visited archaeological sites, Zibilchaltún, Uxmal, Chichen Itza, Caba, and many more. Dr. Vick learned Yucatec Maya to work in the Maya-speaking village of Punta Laguna. The summers in Yucatan proved to me the resilience of Maya language and culture, the vitality of Indigenous America, and why those aspects should matter to Spanish teachers. Mérida's Palacio de Gobierno, facing the Plaza Grande, or Main Square, is home to magnificent mural-sized paintings depicting Mexican history. The works that line the walls in the Palacio de Gobierno are the works of Fernando Castro Pacheco. The artist was born in 1918 in Mérida and died in Mérida in August 2013 at age 95. The Castro Pacheco works at the Palacio de Gobierno bring to life many aspects of Maya history and presence in the peninsula, and one in particular always intrigued me. It is called La Conquista, the Conquest, and you can likely find it online under the title La Conquista, and the name of the artist. But first, some historical background. The Spanish experience in the Yucatan Peninsula differed markedly from the conquest of the Aztecs in central Mexico, the clash that most Spanish teachers study as part of their preparation. For Yucatan, the date, often given for Spanish dominion over the Maya inhabitants, is 1547. But that control was far from complete. 300 years later, in 1847, an uprising known as the Caste War, La Guerra de Castas, began, and before it was over, exploited Maya peasantry had come close to controlling the entire peninsula. This is a fascinating history, but a less well-known part of the national trajectory. That history brings me back to the Castro Pacheco work of art. A thought-provoking statement appears under the painting La Conquista. Los mayas rechazaron la intrusión occidental durante 20 años. Luego su cultura conquistó al conquistador. For 20 years, the Maya repelled the Western intrusion. Then their culture conquered the conqueror. How did culture prevail? How is the statement relevant today? Such questioning is applicable to many types of Spanish classes. Another facet of the Yucatan experiences was introducing Maya literature with master storyteller Domingo Tzul Pot, who recited his works in Yucatec Maya. Having stories delivered in Yucatec Maya as well as Spanish allowed program participants to appreciate the sounds of a Native American language which is tonal and is spoken by as many as 800,000 people in the states of Campeche, Yucatan, and Quintana Roo. Today, teachers interested in introducing an indigenous language as a cultural component in their classes do not have to travel. Examples abound online, and native speakers live in many parts of the United States. Bilingual Maya-Spanish editions, like the one pictured here, have helped keep Maya language and traditions alive and are a good resource to expand cultural horizons. One of my favorite stories in this book is Un Milpero, a corn grower, about a man and his cornfield, which promotes the importance of honesty. Teaming up for a 2007 conference, I joined my daughter Catherine, a professor of Spanish and linguistics who studies indigenous languages, to present a session at the Southern Conference on Language Teaching meeting in Atlanta. For Maya and Nahuatl in the teaching of Spanish, Catherine described linguistic influences of Maya and Nahuatl in Spanish, and my portion was on how Rosario Castellanos and Miguel Ángel Asturias portrayed Mayan communities in literature. The session was well attended, and our presentation became an article in the school publication Dimension. After the article in Dimension was posted on my scholar work site at San Jose State University, it became the most popular item by far, with thousands of downloads that continue today. As a follow-up, but with distinctive emphases, Catherine and I jointly presented on what Spanish teachers should know about indigenous languages of the Americas at the 2015 AATSP conference in Denver. In San Jose State University's Department of World Languages and Literatures, I served as director for MA thesis work on diverse topics pertaining to Indigenous themes. The works listed here are all available online at SJSU ScholarWorks. Each one had a distinctive emphasis. At the November 27, 2012 Isabel Allende Day on campus, a day-long series of activities to honor the author, Allende met with Ariel Traipi Huilipan, part of a Mapuche delegation from southern Chile who were visiting Silicon Valley. Ariel was interested in developing games and activities to reflect Mapuche culture and spoke to our classes in Spanish. Today, Ariel is on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. All of the foregoing led to my interest in producing a book that could serve teachers of Spanish and Portuguese, and Indigenous America in the Spanish language classroom is the result. It was published by Georgetown University Press in June 2023. I have many people to thank, and some are listed on this slide. First and foremost is my daughter, Catherine Fountain, without whom the book would never have taken form. I thank my former graduate students, Maria Elena Bueno, Carmen Valdivia Ponce, Jonathan Alcantar, Rubit Bizar, Marlene Sarate, and Jeanette Quebrado, and I thank Milton Azevedo, Professor of Portuguese Emeritus at UC Berkeley, who generously sent information on indigenous influences in Brazilian Portuguese. I thank Kevin Terraciano, UCLA Professor of History, who provided information about the Florentine Codex, and Sandra Garcia Sanborn, my AATSP Northern California chapter colleague, who brought books from Argentina. An innovation in the ebook, which is also true for the Kindle version, is that there are many links to museums, cultural organizations, government entities, and many other resources described in the narrative. For example, a reference to the multitude of online materials suitable for Spanish classes at Mexico's Museo Nacional de Antropología also gives an active link to the site. Co-presenting with Adolfo Gonzalez on April 11th, 2024, as he described his book, Con el Último Suspiro, at an event held on the California State University Monterey Bay campus, was an honor. Adolfo Gonzalez is an example of the success, often thanks to hard work, persistence, and faith of Indigenous Americans from Latin America living in the United States. Inspiring teachers of Spanish like Rebecca Posey at CSU Monterey Bay are connecting those in their communities who speak Indigenous languages with the aims of a Spanish curriculum. Her former student, Adolfo Gonzalez, a native speaker of Zapotec from Oaxaca, graduated with honors from CSU Monterey Bay. At the April 11th event, Gonzalez explained several expressions in Zapotec to the audience. Thanks to an initiative of AATSP Executive Director Maria Carrera, in June 2024, an article available to attendees at the AATSP conference in Portland presented information and ideas about Indigenous America. The link in this slide lets you access the article, Native American Influencers, which is posted on my San Jose State University ScholarWorks site. The article describes activities to promote Indigenous languages at Stanford University Center for Latin American Studies, search options through Google Earth Voyager, information about the Mapuche from the Chilean Ministry of Education, resources from the National Museum of the American Indian, there are many in Spanish, and examples of words in Brazilian Portuguese that are of indigenous origin. The article also relates my experience meeting a San Jose, California high school student taking AP Spanish whose family speaks Nahuatl. Facts. Along with indigenous resilience in Latin America, Native American presence and visibility are increasingly evident in the United States. In 2024, the U.S. has a Native American Secretary of the Interior. Deb Haaland, a Pueblo of Laguna member, was appointed to the post by President Biden in 2021. Haaland calls herself a 35th generation New Mexican, and as part of the confirmation hearing, she introduced herself in the Kiri's language, which now has fewer than 13,000 speakers. Also, in 2024, Shelley Lowe, who grew up on the Navajo Reservation in Arizona, was confirmed by the Senate in February 2022 as chair of the National Endowment of the Humanities. I was able to meet her very briefly at the 2023 MLA conference in San Francisco. Remember the earlier comment about a talk in April 2024 with Adolfo Gonzalez, a native speaker of Zapotec living in California? Well, in 2024, Zapotec has a surprising presence in the United States. It is second only to Navajo as the indigenous language most spoken in the United States. And, speaking of Navajo, as a part of their fall 2024 presidential campaigns, some outreach to voters is being delivered in Native American languages, including Navajo. One of my favorite teaching examples is one that combines past and present and delivers poetry in an everyday realia item, a 100 pesos Mexican bill. The poetry uses fairly simple vocabulary and is easy to recite. The 100 pesos banknote of 2010 that is no longer in circulation featured a large image of Aztec poet Nezahualcóyotl, along with poetry attributed to him. The lines of verse are in nearly microscopic text alongside his image and are easy to miss at a quick glance. Recent scholarship has questioned the attribution of the lines of poetry, but they are part of popular culture, and here is what they say in Spanish. Amo el canto del cenzontle, pájaro de 400 voces. Amo el color del jade y el enervante perfume de las flores, pero amo más a mi hermano el hombre. I love the song of the cenzontle, the bird of 400 voices. I love the color of jade and the fading perfume of flowers, but I love even more my brother, mankind. Here are questions for a classroom. What is the cenzontle like? The word comes from classical Nahuatl. It's mockingbird in English. What is the color of jade? And what senses does the poetry invoke? Hearing, sight, smell, all of them. Postage stamps are another form of messaging for a country. In Mexico, Benito Juárez has been featured on stamps, along with declarations for which he was known. One stamp gives a well-known line that is short and easy to remember. El respeto al derecho ajeno es la paz. Respect for the rights of others is peace. Longer statements, such as the ones on this slide, are appropriate for a variety of classes. Using the link to the Mexican Postal Service, you can find other stamps relevant to Mexican history, including one issued in April 2021 about the Guerra de Castas, or caste war in Yucatan. I referenced the caste war earlier in this talk in discussing art in Yucatan and the resilience of Maya culture. The postal site provides an extended explanation in Spanish about the origins of the conflict and its end at the dawn of the 20th century. Authentic resources for K-5 and middle school classes are increasingly available. One example is Margarito's Forest, El Bosque de Don Margarito, that references somber aspects of Guatemalan history, along with a focus on native forests and the maintenance of Maya traditions. It tells the story of Margarito Esteban Alvarez Velázquez, as related by his daughter, Maria Guadalupe, and shows the importance of preserving native knowledge and native habitat. It also records the attack on the village of Sac-Ja by the Guatemalan military in the early 1980s that caused some villagers to die, some to flee to the mountains, like Maria Guadalupe, and others to go into exile. Andy Carter, the book's author, first went to Guatemala in April 2007, and after visiting Sac-Ja and hearing about Don Margarito and his forest planting, Carter decided the story should have a bigger audience. Today, the book is available in bilingual editions and in the following languages: English, Spanish, Quiche, and Mam. For more information online, go to the Maya Book Project. Audio readings of Margarito's Forest in Quiche and in Mam are available free at Hardball Press, who publishes the books. How to approach 1492. Like many historical figures, Christopher Columbus and his impact can be interpreted in a variety of ways. Since 1992, when indigenous communities throughout the Americas began a vigorous dissent about the traditional narrative of discovery, many changes have taken place. Now, many celebrate what was called Columbus Day as Indigenous Peoples Day. One easy-to-implement teaching idea is to ask students to search online or create names for the holiday in Spanish. El Día de los Pueblos Originarios, El Día del Encuentro entre dos culturas, etc., etc. Many possibilities exist. Rather than discovery, most now prefer the word encounter. And gone is the idea that Columbus's voyage and its aftermath brought civilization to a continent without it. The Nahuas, Aztecs, created beautiful poems, double metaphors, and exquisitely clever riddles. The Incas engineered an extensive system of roads and bridges. The Maya had a written language, yes, a written language, true writing with logosyllabic glyphs, not picture writing recorded in books. For years, I taught portions of Columbus's letter, Carta a Luis de San Angel, sent to the scribe of King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella, which described his first voyage and was published in 1493. In this letter, Columbus, describing the island he called Hispaniola, now Haiti and the Dominican Republic, praised its beauty, but also suggested to the monarchs the promise of gold and slaves, in essence, promoting extraction and enslavement. Claims like the ones in the letter are one reason Columbus has been portrayed as the harbinger of great harm to Native Americans. 1492 and 1992 can present competing perspectives. For a multitude of resources about Columbus, search the Library of Congress, loc.gov. But note that despite all the artistic representations in libraries and online, we don't know what he looked like. There is no portrait of Columbus drawn from life. Teachers can help students recognize the importance of 1492 and 1992 by incorporating indigenous interpretations. The poster in this slide presents a Native point of view about the 1992 quincentennial, with writing in Quechua and a declaration in Spanish that they, los indios, approach the date with their own face and culture. The poster mentions 3 indigenous contributions: oro, papa y salud, gold, potato, and health, with the implication that these gifts have been unappreciated. New World gold and silver fueled European economies. Potatoes help feed the world, and plants from the Americas have provided vital medicines. Teachers can ask students what products the Americas have given to the world. Potatoes, tomatoes, and chocolate are a good starting point, but there are many, many, many more. Indigenous literature today. Teachers of literature courses can consult numerous options. World Literature Today of September 2023 celebrates Indigenous voices from throughout the Western Hemisphere. Links to the MLA volumes that appear here are one way to find information and resources, but teachers can also look for names like Natalia Toledo, who writes in Spanish and Zapotec, and Briseida Cuevas Coll from Campeche, who composes in Yucatec Maya and translates her poems into Spanish. An additional source is In the Language of Kings, an anthology of Mesoamerican literature, pre-Columbian to the present, a 2001 volume published by Norton with 700 plus pages. This book gives its selections in English, but provides many names, has relevant contextual information, and showcases the variety of indigenous literature. For Chicanx studies, consider an innovative theatrical piece from the father of Chicano theater, Luis Valdez. Mummified Deer begins in San Diego, California in 1969, a key moment for the Chicano movement, with Mama Chu, the main character, in a hospital bed. This complex drama is revealed through the memories and flashbacks of 84-year-old Mama Chu, Jesus Maria Flores. Remember that Chuy is the nickname for Jesus in Spanish. Mama Chu is Yaqui, and her long life has encompassed distinctive moments in Mexican history. In her hospital stay, it is revealed that she is carrying a mummified fetus. Yes, this is possible, a rare complication of an ectopic pregnancy. According to Jorge Huerta, Luis Valdez read a newspaper account about a 60-year-old fetus in the womb of an 84-year-old woman, and that inspired the idea for the play. The deer dancer, Cajeme, Mama Chu's alter ego, who appears in the drama, represents a link, perhaps a mummified link, to indigenous heritage. Cajeme was the name of a Yaqui resistance leader. Resources about Brazil, past and present. Images of Brazil emerged early, as a German woodcut of 1505 confirms. This image in color, called Early German Woodcut of a New World Scene, can be downloaded from the New York Public Library. The woodcut shows stereotypes. Along with family scenes are depictions of cannibalism, which did exist among some indigenous communities in Brazil. European representations of Native Americans in the Americas, some by people who never set foot in the new lands, left lasting impressions about the continent's inhabitants. Characterizing Native American inhabitants of the Americas as practitioners of ritual sacrifice like the Aztecs, or as being anthropophagous like some in Brazil, made it easier for invading countries to claim a moral superiority, even as they slaughtered, plundered, pillaged, and destroyed throughout the continent. What sources are available to us in 2024? In a children's library in Santos, Brazil, I saw the book Indio Vivo by Julieta de Godoy Ladeira, and then ordered a copy from Amazon when I got home. The book was first published in 1994, but what is pictured is the 2012 edition. The book describes the experiences of two indigenous children who travel to a big city, Sao Paulo, but it is more than that and includes history and facts about Brazil's native communities. Our daughter-in-law from Recife remembers reading that book when she was young. The Florentine Codex. Here is a fascinating resource that is now available in digitized form that is easy to access. The Florentine Codex is so named because it is housed in the Laurentian Library in Florence. How it got there is a long story. More important is what it is and what it tells us about the conquered Nahuas of central Mexico in the 16th century. Created by Spanish friar Bernardino de Sahagún, who elicited information from native informants, the 12 lengthy books record a wealth of information and have more than 2,000 illustrations. In the 21st century, research on the Florentine Codex has grown, and the site listed here gives ample background information and anticipates adding resources for teachers. The Florentine Codex allows us to appreciate indigenous perspectives that can be introduced in multiple ways in a variety of courses, and I encourage teachers and students to explore this remarkable resource, now available online, free, and with searchable options. I hope ideas from this webinar will stimulate teachers of Spanish to seek new ways to include Indigenous America in their classes. As many sites about the first peoples of the Americas attest, we are still here.